The question is, what are our doctors and universities doing to identify which contraceptives can cause abortion? Can the government sue us if we inform others that some contraceptives can cause abortions? Are we educating our people for conscientious objection to stand up for their rights? Attorney Liban.
Well, let me answer one of the last questions with regard to whether or not the government can sue any person who questions a particular contraceptive for being an abortive fashion or for questioning any abortive act. And the answer is no, because even under Philippine law, particularly the revised penal code, abortion is a criminal act. And for anybody to question any activity that amounts to the abortion or with regard to the distribution, sale, and promotion of abortive fashions, the state cannot question such move to bring to their attention these particular illegal activities. In fact, it should be our duty to bring this to the attention of authorities, file the necessary actions if need be. With regard to the first question, what the doctors and universities are doing with regard to educating their patients and students. I'm not aware about the activities or the programs of the schools, but I do know that there is a group of doctors which is actually very actively protecting the rights of the family and the rights and the right to life. And I refer to the Doctors for Life, which is one of the petitioners that questioned the reproductive health law before the Supreme Court. Even as we gather today, I know that the doctors there are very actively involved in gathering evidence about drugs and devices which are in the nature of abortive fashions for the purpose of filing the necessary actions in court.
Thank you, Attorney Liban. And the next question still is for Attorney Liban. Which provisions of the reproductive health law were judged unconstitutional?
The short answer is all penal provisions. All provisions that impose, almost all, the most important penal provisions were declared unconstitutional. Well, to cite a few provisions, the provision that requires a medical healthcare provider to refer a patient asking for reproductive drugs or services or devices has been declared invalid for being violative of the right to religion and also in violation of a person's right to conscience. The provision that obliges a healthcare provider or any person for that matter to promote, to speak about the reproductive health services is also declared illegal or unlawful by the Supreme Court based on the constitutional guarantee on free expression. The provision in the RH law which obliges doctors to provide reproductive health services for free as a condition for accreditation with the PhilHealth was also declared I think okay, good. That provision has also been declared illegal by the Supreme Court. The provision punishes a person for withholding information about reproductive health services has also been struck down as illegal by the Supreme Court. In short, what remains in the RH law are nothing but a repetition or redundant statements of other laws already in effect. The only thing that the RH law gives, which was not there before, was specific funding. That's all. But it's very important for us to educate our fellow Catholic brethren with regard to the rights under the RH law as declared by the Supreme Court. And therefore, we should be bold enough to speak out against the RH law and be assured that we can never go to jail for doing so, because that is merely an exercise of our fundamental rights under the Constitution according to the Supreme Court. Because even if the decision of the Supreme Court favors the faithful, the conscientious objector, if this is not bring to the attention of the population, then it will amount to nothing. Because I think majority of our people are not aware that they have the right not to promote, they have the right not to distribute contraceptives if it will violate their conscience or their belief. In fact, the Supreme Court went so far as to state that the sale, distribution of contraceptives must not only pass the stringent requirements of the Food and Drug Administration, but more so it cannot be dispensed with, it cannot be distributed without the prescription of a qualified medical doctor. So that provides safety and protection to the population. And again, a wonderful development in our fight against the anti-life forces. I think the Philippines is the only country that where the RH law, as promoted and practiced elsewhere, is not as it is elsewhere. Because here, the RH law is pretty much watered down and diluted. And so therefore, it is in our hands actually to make the RH law ineffective and practically useless. But that requires a lot of cooperation and understanding and education.
Thank you, Attorney Lima. But please do not put down the microphone, because the next question is still yours. I'd like to clarify the drawing of the family in your slides. Why are only 2 children shown? Are you in favor of the 2-child policy of the government?
Well, first, I have 5 children. I would have preferred more, but my wife obviously cannot go on giving birth. But the slides actually were prepared by my secretary. So probably she took it upon herself to put some pictures there. But obviously the answer is no. What is important is what is written in the slide, not in the pictures that you see.
Very good. It tells you that they're observant, though.
This time, this is addressed to both Bishop Lafitte and Father Bouquet. First, in the Philippines, some media personalities and politicians are slowly conditioning the minds of the people to accept homosexual marriage. Kids see it, and parents should be vigilant. As you said, it is better to speak before, not after, same-sex marriage is legalized. How can parents then deal with homosexual issues? I have short-term memory, so please keep your answers short so I can remember them easily.
It's still more difficult than I was used to believe, to be short in this topic particularly. I should say you have one important thing. In the education, I think children, since the beginning, should be educated to the respect of oneself, of one's body, and the respect of the other's body and intimacy. It starts at home, in a family, but it has to continue at school and so on. The second thing is to develop morally sound friendship. It's not good to fight against this trend, or supposed trend, with a system, education system that should isolate the child. It's all the opposite. It should develop morally sound relationship. And sometimes there are friendship between different families and children of the same age. If the families have the same values, then naturally, the children will have sound values. They will grow in a sound, morally sound context. That's the second thing. The third thing, unfortunately, I discovered that very late because I was personally also very impressed by the fact that entire Catholic families sometimes has children that not only lose faith, don't practice, and get a way of living totally different than a Christian value. Why? And we asked ourselves with friends, we studied this topic a lot to know why. And I have only personally, maybe there are other, but to me, there is one main reason, is that these children have not been educated to altruism. They were never put in a situation to feel compassionate to friends, to other families, to other people sick, poor, or whatever, no, in need. And instead of that, when you have children who are committed in some association, like a scout, like whatever movement or young community, sound communities or groups, then, or association, then obviously the child grows not in a narcissistic way, but on a social way, in a good meaning, no, of the term, in a good sense of the term. No? That's the thing. As a Christian pastor, and I should say, don't neglect the faith of the children. It's normal that at a certain age, sometimes some undetermination, some very vague desire or whatever attraction may occur. That's not a drama. A child who grows, that's all. But when a child grows in God's friendship, when the existence of the Lord is not put into question, no, like that, in a very superficial way, when he goes to the Sunday Mass in a family, when he meets with other friends who are also Christian, he can develop in such a way that if he may have difficulty in imagination, in temptation, whatever thing, no, there are always also not only the human and psychological and educational means, but also the means of God's grace, meaning the dialogue with Jesus, the prayer, then the sacrament. How do you want a young man or young woman today, in 2014, in the context that was described this morning and that you perfectly know, how do you want that people can defend against these trends, against these influence and conviction of society, organization, international organization, politics, and so on, if there is no a natural context where the true and authentic family values and friendship and human love values are defended like the church is. The problem today is not that the church should be isolated. The problem is that only in the church things like natural law is defended, is honored. So personally, I think that it's an attention to the person, not to get the person isolated, not to dramatize that can be a transitory difficulty, and certainly to educate people to love, to charity, to compassion, to commitment for the weak and for other people, you know? And family life, sound family life, and joy and hope, light of hope.
Thank you, Bishop. Next question may be addressed to all three, but the same person said this more personal question. My daughter is in a same-sex relationship, and as a mother, this has pained me so much. Will you please help me try to find ways I can convince her that this relationship will ruin her?
I'm sorry to say that, but I don't think that there are means of conviction or pure convincing the person. Certainly, if the person is already committed and engaged in such a relationship, then there will appear some fields in her life in which the mother can, or the other member of the family or friends can guess that the person is not totally happy. I've never met in my life, to be honest, a person having accepted and having wanted to go ahead in a homosexual relationship being totally happy. Of course, there is a satisfaction of a gratification at a short term, immediate term, but it deprives the life of any horizon. It's very, very difficult to build anything for the future, and it's very fragile. Do you know that 90% of the homosexual couples, 90% are destroyed after 4 years of common life? So meaning that if we lament because our marriages are threatened by divorce, by everything, no? Would you think that the proportion be in such a way, 90% in 4 years or less than 4 years? So that's only to tell this mother, certainly your daughter is not perfectly happy. And there comes a moment in which there is something in her heart that we like to express. So in that occasion, don't moralize. Don't try to convince. Only hear and show another way and show why are you not happy. Did you think of it? What do you think? And try to find any means that only motherly, a love of a mother can find, no? Only a love of the heart of a mother can find to go ahead. And it's not definitive. It's not. There is hope, always hope, no? And that's what I would advise at the first stage. But I know that it's not a convincing argument that can solve the problem. Thank you.
Yeah, what I'd like to do is just, give an example that just happened here in the Philippines. I was in one of the malls here after having lunch, and very different subject, not regarding homosexuality. This person did not reveal where their struggle was. But I'm walking towards the parking lot, and this young man stops me and just wants to talk. And he says, Father, I don't know how to deal with my feelings, my temptations. And you can tell that he was very sincerely struggling, that he wasn't happy. He was very apparently sexually active. He, was very much aware that he was living something that he thought would make him happy, make him feel good. It would bring him a sense of peace. But his heart was unsettled. And as Bishop Laffitte just noted, that is very much the same thing in the majority, of people living in same-sex union. They may not be honest with themselves. They won't tell you that. But there is indeed, they're searching for love. They're looking for that purpose to be able to express themselves in the way that God has made them. But unfortunately, they found themselves expressing it in a way that God cannot bless and God will not condone, and that the graces are not there to live that life. And so this young man, I had to tell him basically, is that first of all, you have to believe that you can live it, that you can be chaste, that you can be pure, that you are capable of this with God's grace. And, at first, he was just very much caught up where he was, but again, you can see him opening up. He began to understand, that he has the strength to do this, and we just have to direct him in the right way. And I would say that in this situation here, we have to model to the people around us authentic faith, authentic love, authentic compassion, authentic, charity that we should have towards every brother and every sister, and how we model that. And at the same time, how we don't condone the behavior, that we don't participate in the behavior. I think that, and this is very hard, and I know it's easy for me as a priest to say this, but as families, we have to be careful that we don't participate in the deception, in the illusion. We have to participate in the truth. We have to model that truth to them. And at first, it's very uncomfortable because, people might say, well, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my nephew, that's my grandson, that's my granddaughter. I have family members in my own family who struggle with these things. And I love them. I care about them. But at the same time, I don't just feed into their lifestyle. You have to set an example, a model. So don't be afraid. That's the first thing. Don't be intimidated. But love that person from the core, and let that love help you to model to them real love and where it can be found. I have seen, and lastly this, men and women come out of that lifestyle. I have seen it happen, and I've seen it happen because people modeled to them an authentic love. And because they were searching for that love, they weren't finding it in the relationship that they were in. They found it in their family who gave to them authentic faith and authentic love. And now those people are living chaste lives, and I know one in particular who's now married, living a beautiful family life. So it is very, very possible.
Thank you, Father Bouquet. Next question. Relativism and indifferentism has been cited as root causes of society's problems with respect to the family. However, we can also add dissent within the church. While they may be a minority, they tend to influence the silent ones to question the magisterium. How can we deal with priests and theologians who support the RH law?
No. Okay, it's not fair, but it's easier. Okay. I'm sorry, but this question stresses what is the most important and difficult and for us as a pastors and as a priests, as a Christian baptized, is to see the division not between the Christian and the other, but within the body of the church. Certainly, the problem is not today's problem, because when Jesus, who wanted to create communion, who had a very small body of 12 people, extremely attached to him, who shared his life day and night, even if Jesus, at the very true moment of his life, could not have the 12 around him, and from the 12, one broke the communion and betrayed. So there is something that goes beyond any analysis and thought and judgment. I think that nobody is obliged to become active in a church, and nobody obliged us to become priest, and nobody obliged us to become bishop. So if we accept that, we took an engagement, a commitment, which was very clear and very sincere for all of us, no? To serve the church as a servant and to try to be as much obedient as we can, taking into account our personal fragility, which is the human fragility. But anyway, the goodwill should be always present to do what the church does, to teach what the church teaches, because it's linked with our faith. I believe the church, Catholic, Apostolic, Roman Church, I believe. If we don't believe, why did we become a priest, no? And why did we assume a responsibility in the church? So, saying that is not judging people, but there are different problems at different levels. We don't have to confuse between a difference of opinion in matters in which a difference is possible. For instance, on prudential matters, I think this, and the father may have another opinion, stress another point. That's not contradictory. But if the church says and affirms that a marriage, according to God's design, is an indissoluble union between man and woman, because God's creator creates man as a man and woman, and he wanted them to be united and gave them the blessing and multiply, be fruitful, multiply, and so on. I cannot affirm the opposite. It's impossible, because if I have another opinion, I have not another opinion that my brother bishops or that the Pope of the tradition of the church. I am contradictory. It's with a divine law that was always interpreted like that. There are some Christian confessions at a certain moment of history that divide from the church and then lost any idea of a guide, of a magisterium in this way. And so now you have Christian church even having women homosexual bishop. It's absurd, it seems to you and to me totally absurd, but you can understand that at the beginning there is this